The young and the restless spoilers Phyllis Summers had never been one to fade quietly into the background, yet in the wake of her harrowing captivity at the hands of Martin Laurent, alongside Sharon Newman, she found herself more vulnerable than she cared to admit. The memory of those dark days in Toulouse lingered stubbornly behind her eyelids, a raw wound that colored every interaction, every decision she made. As she returned to the familiar streets of Genoa City, Wisconsin, she carried that trauma like a talisman, awkward and unwelcome, but impossible to relinquish. Only weeks into her homecoming, the unexpected arrival of Amanda Sinclair, a face from the past with ties to the storied Winters clan, offered Phyllis a glimmer of reprieve. Amanda's return was cloaked in mystery. Rumors swirled that Chancellor Winters' interests had dispatched her with a singular mission: to soothe the frayed nerves of her old friend and ally, Hillary, and to reassure the Winters family that stability could still be found in their fractured world. Phyllis, desperate to regain her footing, seized upon this renewed connection as a lifeline to influence and power she feared had slipped through her fingers. She and Amanda met first at Crimson Lights, where the hum of espresso machines might have masked the undercurrent of whispered negotiation. Phyllis, in a rare moment of candid vulnerability, confessed her doubts. "I thought I had it all," she admitted, voice taut with regret, "but these days I'm not even sure I have myself." Amanda, ever the composed diplomat, placed a steadying hand on Phyllis's arm. "You have your instincts," she told her, "and you know this town better than almost anyone. There's a seat at the table with the Newmans and Abbotts waiting for you, if you're bold enough to claim it." In that moment, Phyllis recognized a familiar spark of ambition reigniting within her, a resolve to leverage whatever scraps of information she possessed to carve out a position of authority once more. Enter Aristotle Dumas, the enigmatic newcomer who had burst onto the Genoa City scene earlier this year with little fanfare but rapidly expanding influence. A figure shrouded in calculated reticence, Dumas had become synonymous with whispered boardroom coups and discreet financial maneuverings that left even the most seasoned power brokers, Victor Newman among them, nursing bruised egos. Now, word was out that Dumas stood on the brink of unveiling a strategic coup so significant it might rewrite the corporate hierarchy of Newman Enterprises. Phyllis, ever the opportunist, realized that her inside knowledge of Laurent's vendetta against the Newmans, coupled with the intimate details of Sharon's captivity, constituted a currency of considerable value. Stafford's hopes of securing her a senior communications role at Abbott Communications had crumbled spectacularly when Daniel Romalotti, her youngest, whose own loyalties had long been a source of friction, abandoned the fledgling venture. That setback had left Stafford nursing bitterness and Phyllis questioning her worth. Yet the circumstances that sent her scrambling also presented a tantalizing opportunity. She could whisper her secrets to Aristotle Dumas, propelling him, and by extension herself, into a position of undisputed leverage. The Winchester Manor, where Amanda now held clandestine meetings with representatives of the Winters interests, buzzed with quiet anticipation. Through charges of anti-anxiety medication and measured sips of chamomile tea, Phyllis pieced together the fragments of a strategic alliance. If Amanda could broker a truce between the fractious Winters siblings, Phyllis could insert herself as the indispensable intermediary. But she needed more. She needed the imprimatur of power that came only from alignment with Victor Newman or his most formidable rival. To this end, she arranged a discreet rendezvous with Dumas in a private lounge at Society Café, the velvet chairs and hushed ambience lending an air of conspiratorial urgency. As Aristotle slid into the booth opposite her, his hawkish gaze betrayed no surprise at her proposition. "I understand you have information that could be enlightening," he said, lips curving into a predatory smile. Phyllis's pulse quickened. This was her moment to reclaim her agency. Across town, Victor Newman monitored the ripples of Dumas's rise with a mixture of admiration and contempt. He recognized in Aristotle a mirror of his own earlier machinations, ruthless, resourceful, unencumbered by the sentimental entanglements that so often ensnared his own family members. When reports reached him that Phyllis Summers was seeking to parlay her knowledge of his darkest vulnerabilities, Victor's legendary composure faltered for the briefest instant. He summoned Phyllis to the Newman ranch for what would surely be a consequential conversation. As she stepped into his mahogany-paneled study, heart-pounding, Victor offered her a stark ultimatum: you can sell your secrets to Aristotle Dumas and watch him use them to dismantle everything I've built, or you can join me, stand with the Newmans, and I'll ensure you're rewarded far beyond anything Dumas can offer. The weight of his offer pressed upon Phyllis like a physical force, and for a heartbeat she hesitated, torn between the exhilaration of a new alliance and the enduring loyalty she felt toward the only family who had ever truly given her a home. Meanwhile, Amanda Sinclair's involvement added another layer of intrigue. In her role as emissary to the Winters family, she had cultivated an aura of impartial guidance, but her true loyalty lay with the faction that paid her fees. The news of Phyllis's potential pact with Dumas reached her through confidants at Chancellor Communications, sparking a rare moment of shock in her composed demeanor. The revelation forced Amanda to re-evaluate her own strategy. Was it worth continuing her mission to pacify the Winters clan if her ally in Phyllis was simultaneously conspiring to sell out the Newmans? In boardrooms and clandestine phone calls, she grappled with the complexity of competing loyalties, recognizing that her influence, and perhaps her own safety, depended on the outcome of Phyllis's fateful decision. As twilight descended upon Genoa City, the players in this unfolding drama each braced for the consequences of Phyllis's choice. Would she side with Victor, embracing the fragile security of the Newman fold, or would she gamble on Aristotle Dumas's promises, setting in motion a chain of events that could upend the city's power structure? And what of Amanda Sinclair, whose return had been heralded as a balm for old wounds but now threatened to become the fulcrum upon which destinies turned? In the opulent corridors of Newman Enterprises and the stately parlors of Chancellor Communications, every whispered confidence, every ledger entry, and every clandestine meeting drew them closer to an inevitable reckoning, one that would test alliances, expose hidden loyalties, and determine whether Phyllis Summers could truly rewrite her own narrative or if she would become yet another pawn in the relentless game of Genoa City power. The stage was set, the players were in motion, and when the final deal was struck, only one truth would endure: in a city defined by secrets and ambition, power belonged to those willing to pay its steepest price. A peculiar hush settled over Genoa City the moment Martin Laurent unveiled the true scope of his latest experiment, an audacious gambit that none of his unwitting participants could have predicted and that sent shockwaves through every once rigid alliance. In the hushed halls of the police precinct, Phyllis Summers and Sharon Newman found themselves bound by an unlikely camaraderie born of shared bewilderment. Martin, having meticulously orchestrated their confrontation under the guise of psychological profiling, revealed that his entire scheme hinged on their refusal to concede his hypothesis that trauma and betrayal could forge bonds stronger than blood. When Phyllis and Sharon adamantly insisted he had failed, he allowed himself a wry smile, reminding them that their very insistence on resisting his theories only proved his point. By rejecting the notion that they could ever be allies, they had inadvertently cemented an unbreakable connection, a bond forged in defiance rather than trust. The revelation was electric. Audiences had never witnessed Phyllis and Sharon, two women shaped by decades of rivalry and heartache, unite so completely in purpose and understanding. But as Martin's attention shifted to his more personal, and far more unsettling, demonstration, the tension in the precinct reached a fever pitch. He introduced Alan, the twin brother he had never acknowledged publicly, a man who, in Martin's own fractured narrative, possessed a charisma so potent that it could reprogram the mind itself. The performance was chillingly brilliant. Martin, decked in his brother's tailored suit and adopting Alan's precise mannerisms, hypnotized Sharon under the clinical guise of memory recovery exercises. The moment Sharon's eyes glazed under his whispered commands, an audible murmur rippled through the onlookers. Yet the astonishing part came next, when Tracy Abbott, drawn to the precinct by rumors of Martin's poignant exhibit, stepped forward, not as an interrogator, but as an enraptured participant. Under the influence of Martin's trance, Sharon's defenses dissolved, and she found herself responding to Tracy's steady gaze with a vulnerability she had long kept buried. For a fleeting instant, the barriers between them crumbled. Sharon, the indomitable survivor, and Tracy, the perceptive abbot scouting for her next advocacy project, discovered a tender spark that defied every assumption they had harbored about each other's loyalties. Word of this uncanny encounter spread like wildfire. Critics and fans alike lauded the storyline as one of the most daring twists in soap opera history, an audacious collision of psychology, identity, and forbidden attraction. Beneath the spectacle, however, lay the sobering truth of Martin Lawrence's motives. By masquerading as his fictional twin, Alan, he had not only demonstrated his own mastery over perception but had also forced the city's most guarded women to confront truths about themselves that even they feared to name. Phyllis, ever the strategist, recognized in Martin's experiment the dangerous power of suggestion and vowed never to be so vulnerable again. Sharon, though shaken, felt an unexpected gratitude for the clarity it had forced upon her feelings for Tracy. In the aftermath, speculation ran rampant. Would Sharon pursue this new emotional terrain now that her heart had been laid bare? Could Tracy, whose loyalty to her family and her own moral code ran deep, reciprocate a bond born under such manipulative circumstances? And what of Martin Laurent himself? Was he a madman unmoored by grief, or a visionary who dared to expose the hidden chambers of the human psyche? As Genoa City held its breath, one fact emerged with crystal clarity: nothing would ever be the same. The walls between adversaries had been breached, new alliances had taken root in the most improbable of soils, and the reverberations of Martin's experiment would echo through every twisted corridor of love, loyalty, and ambition. In the end, the most spectacular twist was not Martin's hypnotic theatrics, but the revelation that, in the world of the young and the restless, the greatest power lies in the bonds we refuse to see coming, until they arrive to change everything. In the charged atmosphere of Genoa City's power corridors, the steadfast presence of Morgan Corinthos as a series regular has become far more than mere casting news. It is a declaration that the fabric of the young and the restless will be rewoven around her every twist of fate. Since her daytime Emmy triumph in 2022, Morgan's dual portrayal, first as the fierce, resourceful daughter of Sonny and Carly, now also as the enigmatic Amanda, has endowed the canvas of Port Charles with unprecedented dramatic potential. Unlike many characters whose secondary identities flicker briefly before vanishing, Amanda's murky loyalties and hidden agendas promise to carry forward a wealth of combustible storylines. Behind the scenes, whispers insist that Morgan's contract guarantee will withstand even the most daring summer sweeps, ensuring that her twin paper trails, both bloodline heir and corporate dark horse, remain central to the city's ever-shifting allegiances. Yet amid these long-term assurances, an unexpected departure looms as Aristotle Dumas's attorney, burdened with delivering a final communiqué, readies her exit from Genoa City. Her message, concise and unassailable, will convey the full weight of Dumas's ultimatum before she vanishes beyond city limits, perhaps sunning herself in some favored retreat far from boardroom machinations and whispered vendettas. For viewers, this means weeks, if not months, of uncertainty as summer approaches, and daytime schedules teeter on the brink of transformation. The departure shatters one of Phyllis Summers's surest alliances, the ever-reliable counsel she once believed would steady her comeback. With Stafford Communications once again destabilized by familial betrayals, and with her son Daniel's refusal to join the new venture still a fresh wound, Phyllis confronts the unpalatable truth that her foundation of support is crumbling beneath her. It is in this vacuum that Billy Abbott steps forward, severing ties with Stafford as decisively as he once turned his back on his father's darker impulses. His gesture, though painful, resonates with necessary finality. Phyllis can neither rely on his goodwill nor on the sagging promise of Stafford Communications to fulfill her ambitions. In confronting this reality, Phyllis stands at a crossroads familiar to soap opera matriarchs before her. Allow herself to collapse under the weight of another career setback, or harness every scrap of her famed tenacity to rise phoenix-like from the ashes. The city's rumor mill predicts the latter, confident that Phyllis, long known for bending circumstance to her will summon resources yet unseen, forging new alliances and deploying her shrewd instincts to reassert her place among Genoa City's power players. As the tension ripples outward, Michael Baldwin emerges as an unlikely linchpin in Phyllis's quest for renewal. No longer Victor Newman's consigliere, after publicly relinquishing that role in a gesture that shocked the business world, Michael now carries none of the old moral compromises that once dogged his every move. His recent break with Victor, born of a desire to reclaim his own ethical center, has positioned him to empathize with Phyllis's own bruising blow. It is easy to imagine quiet meetings in the corners of crimson lights or secret strategy sessions in Michael's upscale law office, where he sketches out legal pathways and offers counsel untethered from Newman Enterprises' shadow. In Michael, Phyllis may discover both a sympathetic ear and a tactical mind capable of navigating the labyrinthine rules of merger agreements, hostile takeovers, and public relations minefields. Together, this unlikely trio, Phyllis, newly galvanized. Billy, fresh from his own rupture, and Michael, returning to legal advocacy unbound by corporate loyalty, sets the stage for a spring whirlwind of strategic gambits. Expect boardroom battles fought in the press, alliances brokered over after-hours cocktails, and cataclysmic reveals that will ricochet through the city's elite. By the time the summer heats up, consumers tuning in will find Stafford Communications either reborn through audacious innovation or shuddered beneath the weight of relentless corporate onslaught. Phyllis's trajectory, balanced precariously between ruin and renaissance, will stand as both cautionary tale and testament to her indomitable will. And through it all, Morgan Corinthos, shuttling between her Ashton Square loft and the marble floors of Newman Enterprises, will remain the constant observer and participant in this maelstrom, ensuring that, whatever the outcome, the young and the restless delivers the chaos, the catharsis, and the consummate drama that fans have come to expect.